name's Juliet Bernard. I was the founder editor of a magazine called The Knitter, and today I am here with Jane to talk about her latest project. Jane, can you tell me, how long have you been doing crochet alongs?
I did my first crochet along in 2011, and that was a mystery crochet along, more or less. So I did a design with using Rowan yarns, where I produced a blanket design and issued snippets, tiny snippets of the design, and people joined a club to do the project with me, and that was called, we just called it the Crochet Club, and I did that for 4 years. And subsequently to that, I've then done 2 crochet along projects for Starcraft yarns, which were great because they were released as free patterns via the Starcraft blog. So that means I've done, well, I'm counting them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the new one, Bohemian Blooms, will be my 7th.
How much work goes into one of these projects? Because I know as a crocheter that it takes me a while to crochet them, so there must be a lot of work involved.
Yeah, they're all a bit different actually, but some of them come to me. I've talked before when I've done interviews and things with people about my design process, and some of them come very quickly to me and others take quite a lot of time. So sometimes I just play with yarn and sort of see where the yarn is taking me and see what it wants to be almost. And then other times I have a very clear idea of what I want the design to look like when I've finished. And with this one, the new one, I kind of had it in my head before I started.
So how do you choose the yarns? Because you've got quite a variety of yarns in the blankets we can see here.
Yeah. I tend to go for in regards to the Rowan projects that I've done, I used Rowan cotton glacé in my first 4 projects, and that's really because I think it's a really fabulous yarn, and for crochet it keeps the stitch definition fantastically.
Yeah.
And then for the subsequent 2 that I did with Starcraft, we did one in wool or acrylic, and we did one, so DK weight, and we did one in a cotton weight, a DK weight as well. And I think it's just, again, the kind of the design tells me what yarn it needs to use, so it kind of, does that make sense?
Yes, it kind of speaks to you.
Yeah.
But then how do you choose your colour palette? Is that part of the idea that you've got?
Yeah, again, it's very organic. You know, my whole approach to designing is quite organic. With some projects I have a rough idea of a palette in mind before I start, and with others it just kind of, I do a bit, pick up another colour. So I'm very lucky that I can have kind of lots of yarn around me, whereas people at home can only, people at home can only kind of afford to pick up sort of 8 or 9 balls of something, but I can sort of play with lots. And when I'm designing, I do mix brands as well, so I'm looking really just at colour.
Yes.
So I just surround myself with DK weight yarns, and then once I've got an idea of that, sometimes I often actually design in Starcraft Special DK.
Yes. Because
it has such a huge colour palette.
It's about 80 colours or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it might be more than that even. So that's a great one for designing in, and then I can tweak it from there on.
So tell us about your latest project, which we can see behind you. It's extraordinarily beautiful. Tell me a bit about it.
Okay, so I wanted to go down the route of doing another crochet along, but I wanted it to be a high-end product. I wanted it to be something that people would want to make and maybe hang up like we have here, or create as almost like an heirloom piece to hand down or give to people as presents. A lot of the crochet projects that I do now, actually, you know, the yarn kits come in at a price point of about £40 or £50, and I think that's fabulous because there are a lot of people that want that. But this one, I wanted to go back to kind of my Rowan background and go and do something that was really kind of high end, I suppose, really.
Which yarns have you used for this project?
Okay, so I've used Rowan Summerlight DK, which is a pure cotton weight DK.
Lovely.
I've used Felted Tweed, which
my absolute all-time favourite yarn in the whole
which is lovely,
world.
yeah, it's really nice. So that's a wool. I think it's got a little bit of alpaca and viscose in it as well. Soft Yak, which is really beautiful. It's a relatively new one to the Rowan range. and then baby merino silk DK.
So you've got some really gorgeous fibres in there.
Yeah, I wanted this to have that sort of luxury element to it and have some really nice sort of high-end, beautiful yarns in.
What inspired your colour palette and your choice of motifs?
Okay, so this design is called Bohemian Blooms, and it's based on, well, looking at the inspiration of lots of different things, but in main it's looking at the Bloomsbury group, who were a set of artists and writers and critics and all sorts round about the turn of the century.
Are there any names we would know?
The two key people that I've sort of based this on is Vanessa Bell and Duncan Grant.
Vanessa Bell was...
Vanessa Bell was Virginia Woolf's sister.
That's it, yes.
They were artists, the pair of them were artists, and they actually, during the war, they went to live at Charleston Farmhouse in West Sussex.
Oh, which some people might have visited.
Which might have visited, yeah, and that's, it's kind of quite iconic. It's known for its kind of iconic paintings within the house. But they also worked on the nearby Berwick Church, which they did murals and things within the church while they were around about 1941-42. So they're quite interesting murals, and you can go and visit those as well. So.
But it's the pulpit that you were particularly drawn to, wasn't it?
Yeah, some of the bits within the design, for example, the butterflies that are in here and the blue frame around the edging are very much taken from the pulpit, which was painted by Duncan Grant, actually quite a lot later, more sort of into the 1960s.
And so that informed your colour palette as well, did it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of had lots of colours around me, but yeah, the colours mainly have been taken from that kind of like 1930s, kind of 40s idea of a palette.
How do all your ideas come together in a blanket like this? You know, you've got the inspiration from the pulpit, you've got the colour palette from around there, and maybe in the house itself. How does that all come together in motifs for you?
Well, in terms of this one, and actually in the way I design a lot of my blankets, I actually tend to design from the centre out.
Oh, okay.
So like this was the first bit that I designed. In fact, no, I think perhaps this one was. But this was the first kind of bit that I got in terms of the design. These flowers, I wanted butterflies, I wanted to get the idea of country gardens and things. And because of the idea of squares as well, which also comes into the design theme, I wanted stripes and squares, so I wanted something that made it look like it was framed as well.
Framed,
so,
yes, I can see that. That's gorgeous. Some of that looks a little bit complicated. I can see there are even beads in the blanket. What level of skill do people need to be able to do this project?
I design it in a way so that when I do my crochet alongs, I design them in a way that they get progressively harder.
Okay.
So the first bit I suggest, and I must say at this point that the patterns are laid out in a book form, so it's a crochet along style project in that people can work through it in whatever way they want to. They could start hard if they want to, they could start easy, but I've laid it out so that the first pieces are actually the blue frame here, which is just a double crochet stripe, and I think the next bit is possibly these little circles, so small motifs that are relatively easy.
So people can build up their confidence as they get into the project.
Yeah, and so the techniques get progressively harder, so beading isn't introduced till a little bit later on, and then these areas where probably the butterfly is probably quite a complicated one because you build up these areas of 3D crochet.
But that's all in the booklet that comes with the project?
Yeah. And there's step-by-step photography along the way as well, so that you can see what everything should look like at each point.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
How does the project work in conjunction with the book, and will there be any online tutorials, or how can people get hold of the project?
Okay. So the kit will be available from us for the first 6 months or so, and the kit will include the yarn, the beads, the pattern book and a sewing label.
Wow.
And then after a 6-month period, the book will be available separately, so that people that don't want to use my yarn choices can work through the project as well. Now the book is laid out in a way that, as I said already, it starts easy and gets progressively harder, but it's laid out in block pieces. So if you wanted to do it as a crochet along with friends or on your own, you could get all 4 of the frame pieces done within your first fortnight, if you like.
Yes.
Give yourself a time scale, and then you could do your next 4 pieces in your next 2 weeks, or however you want to do it.
Yes.
So it is laid out as a crochet along project, but it's in your own way and in your own time.
It sounds fantastic.
And as part of that, we're going to put technique downloads on the website, which are PDF documents showing you. So, for example, there's beading, there's surface crochet, there's bullion stitches. There's all sorts of areas of this that bobbles, for example, that may need a little bit more help. People might need help with.
Yes.
So we're going to have technique downloads available for everybody, not just for people that buy the kit. They're going to just be on our website. And you can see where to get those.
I've never done bullion stitches, so that's one I'll certainly be looking out for. They look fantastic.
And then we're going to have a series of videos as well. So my friend Sarah Hazel's been down and we've done some videos too.
Fantastic. So I guess the final most important question is, when does it launch?
Okay, so it launches next week. I shouldn't say next week, could I? Because you could be watching this at any time. It launches on the is it the 10th of October, 11th of October, and it'll launch via our website. The yarn kits will go on the project kits will go on a pre-sale basis, so that's the only way we can do it really, because I have no idea how many people are going to want to do it. There might be 10 people. Actually, we already know there's 20 people.
Oh, there we go.
So we know
we've
got 20.
Your target.
We've got a little list of people begging, but that's great. So we've got 20 at least, but we did it on a pre-sale basis because it will have a relatively high price point.
Which is?
And the price point is £175.
But for all the yarn included, and the beads, and a gorgeous booklet.
Yeah, we've based the price on yarn retail price.
Right.
So actually, those that buy our kit in this first period will get the pattern book, the beads for free.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so, and we're doing it so that people can pay a deposit and a second payment if they want to, just to kind of break up the payment for them. But also, the reason I did it, and I've already said it, or the reason I did it in this way is so that those that haven't got the capacity to pay £175 for something can
do it
later on buy the book and use whatever yarn they want.
And will you be doing a group on Facebook or a Ravelry group or something like that?
No, Facebook and Ravelry are very difficult. Well, not very difficult, I love them, but it's the time that they actually take for me to manage and look at.
But with all the resources you're going to put online, there's plenty of support for people.
Yeah, and I think a Facebook group will probably appear. I often get people, email and say, would you mind if I did a Facebook group? And it's like,
I'll have to start one for you.
Have it, it's fine. So yeah, and there'll be links all through too, so the videos and things will all go on YouTube, so it should all be easily accessible for everybody.
Well, I can't wait to see how people start to approach it, and can't wait to see more of it come online. Thank you very much for your time, Jane.
Thank you.